I still remember the exact sound of that heavy wooden door slamming in my face, the cold click of the lock turning, and my mother's voice on the other side, sharp and final, "You're not welcome here." This is family business. My name is Elena, and that day was supposed to be about saying goodbye to the only person who ever truly loved me without conditions, my grandmother. Grandma Rose had passed 3 weeks earlier after a quiet battle with illness. She was the softest place in a family that had always felt hard. While my mother measured love in money and control, Grandma measured it in late-night talks, homemade soup, and the way she would hold my hand and say, "You are enough, exactly as you are." I had driven 4 hours to be there for the will reading. I wore the navy dress Grandma once said made me look strong. I carried the little photo of us she kept on her nightstand, the one where we were both laughing so hard our eyes were closed. I thought I was coming to honour her. I didn't know I was walking into a trap my own mother had set. When I reached the lawyer's office downtown, the receptionist barely looked up. My mother stood in the hallway with my 2 older brothers, arms crossed, face carved from stone. She didn't even pretend to be sad anymore. The grief had already been replaced by something colder calculation. "Elena," she said, stepping in front of the door. "This is for immediate family only. You don't need to be here." I felt the air leave my lungs. "I'm her granddaughter. I have every right, you have no right," she cut me off. "You've always been dramatic, always making everything about yourself. Grandma is gone. There's nothing left for you to take." My brothers looked at the floor. They had always chosen the easier path, staying quiet, staying on Mom's good side. I stood there with my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. For a second, I almost turned around, almost let the shame win. But then I remembered Grandma's last words to me on the phone, whispered and weak. "Promise me you'll be there, sweetheart, no matter what anyone says." So I stayed. I pressed my back against the opposite wall and waited. My mother told the receptionist to lock the conference room door once everyone was inside. I watched her do it. I watched the handle turn and the lock click. And something inside me cracked wide open, not with anger yet, but with a deep, aching disbelief. How could the woman who gave me life try so hard to erase me from the only soft memory I had left? I didn't know that the lawyer had already seen everything. I didn't know that Grandma had prepared for this exact moment. All I knew was the cold hallway, the locked door, and the sudden terrifying feeling that I was truly alone. But what I didn't know that day was that the lock on that door was about to become the least important thing in the room. The weeks before Grandma's death had already shown me the truth, even if I tried not to see it. My mother had moved into Grandma's house to help. She changed the locks. She controlled the visitors. She told me Grandma was too tired for phone calls when I knew that wasn't true. Once, I drove over unannounced and found Grandma sitting by the window with tears in her eyes. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "They're already dividing things in their heads. Don't let them make you small." I should have fought harder then. Instead, I told myself Mom was grieving in her own way. I told myself families fight when someone is dying. I was wrong. After the funeral, the messages started. My mother texted that I shouldn't expect anything from the will, that Grandma had spoken clearly about who deserved what. My brother stopped answering my calls. Suddenly, I was the outsider, the problem, the one who never helped enough. The same mother who used to brag about my grades now spoke about me like I was a burden she had endured. The night before the will reading, I barely slept. I kept replaying every childhood moment where I had felt second best. The birthdays where my brothers got the bigger gifts. The way Mom's face lit up for them and tightened for me. I had spent years trying to earn a love that was never freely given. And now, even in death, Grandma's memory was being used as another weapon against me. When the lawyer finally opened the conference room door that afternoon, my mother was already seated at the head of the table like she owned the place. She looked at me with pure fury when the receptionist said, "Miss, Hart is here." "Mr. Ellison specifically asked that she join." My mother stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "That is not happening. She is not part of this." The lawyer, a calm man in his 60s with kind eyes and a folder thick with papers. Simply said, Mrs. Hart, your mother left very clear instructions. Elena is to be present for the entire reading. If she is asked to leave, we stop. Those were her exact words. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. My mother's face went white, then red. One of my brothers muttered something under his breath. I walked into that room on shaking legs and sat in the empty chair at the far end of the table. I could feel every pair of eyes on me, but for the first time in years I didn't look down. Inside my chest, something began to shift. The pain was still there, sharp and heavy, but underneath it a quiet strength was waking up. The same strength Grandma used to talk about when she said, "Soft doesn't mean weak, Elena. Soft can be the strongest thing in the room." I sat there while the lawyer opened the folder. I sat there while my mother tried one last time to object. And I realised the betrayal wasn't just about money or a will. It was about a lifetime of being made to feel like I had to earn my place in my own family. That day, in that locked room that was no longer locked against me, I finally stopped asking for permission to exist. The lawyer cleared his throat and began to read. Grandma Rose had left the house, the one my mother had already started redecorating in her mind, to me. Not to be sold, not to be shared. To me, with the condition that it remain a place of peace. She left her savings to be divided equally among her 3 grandchildren, with a special note that any attempt to contest the will would cause that person's share to go to charity instead. And then came the letter. The lawyer looked at my mother and said gently, she asked that this be read aloud, in front of everyone. My mother's hands were clenched so tightly her knuckles were white. The letter was short. Grandma wrote that she had watched the way love was given and withheld in our family for too many years. She wrote that she would not let her final act become another wound. She named the nights I had stayed with her when no one else would. She named the quiet ways I had shown up. And then she wrote the line that still lives in my chest. Elena does not need to earn her place. She already has one. And if anyone tries to take it from her, they will only prove they never understood what family means. No one spoke for a long time. My mother stood up, gathered her purse, and walked out without a word. My brothers followed. The lawyer simply closed the folder and said, she prepared for this. She knew. I sat alone in that room after they left, the letter still open on the table. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel the sharp edge of revenge. What I felt was something quieter and deeper peace. The kind of peace that comes when the truth finally stands taller than the lies. In the months that followed, my mother tried to contest the will. She failed. The house became mine. I kept Grandma's garden alive. I kept her photo on the nightstand. And slowly, the weight I had carried for years began to lift. I learned that justice doesn't always look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like a locked door that refuses to stay locked. Sometimes it looks like an old woman who loved you enough to protect you even after she was gone. If you are listening to this and someone has tried to make you feel small in your own story, hear me. Their rejection is not your truth. You do not have to shrink to fit into a family that only makes room for you on their terms. Stand where you are. Speak when it is time. And trust that the people who truly love you, whether they are still here or already gone, have already written your name in the places that matter. I am no longer the girl standing in a cold hallway waiting to be let in. I am the woman who walked through the door and stayed. And that, in the end, was the only revenge I ever needed.